There's been a lot of politicians have come over the years. I mean, Lord Archer, believe it or not, was WPUSA president at one point before he was jailed for perjury, and he brought William Hague with him, who was then leader of the Conservative Party. It was just before an election where William Hague obviously went on to be absolutely trounced. But he came round. His dad actually was a big snooker fan, and he came round with him, and we showed him into the Heritage Room, and we showed him into the arena. And he seemed to think. He actually asked me. He said, "Is this the table you use everywhere?" He thought there's one snooker table in the whole world, and that's what every tournament's played on. I had to tell him it wasn't.
We just come back from the China Open, and the guy who used to write for the Telegraph, I won't use his name for embarrassment reasons, the guy who wrote for the Telegraph, who was a really good mate of ours, he got a Chairman Mao hat on, one of the big furry things with a big red star on the front. And Jeff Hoon, the Labour Party MP, who was a former Defence Secretary, I think, he came in at one point and he was being showed around, and the gentleman who was showing him around said, and this is so-and-so from the Daily Telegraph, and he looked around and he got this massive hat on, and Jeff Hoon said, well, if the guy from the Daily Telegraph's wearing that, he said, we're okay.
Yeah, and also Nick Clegg. On home ground, he was booed though, wasn't he? Well,
Nick Clegg, I went into the arena to see Nick Clegg give a speech to the assembled, and I'm thinking he's going to be met with a very warm reception here, considering that it's his home constituency, and he was booed roundly. And of course, this was just before the election, when the Liberal Democrats eventually went into coalition with the Conservatives, so God only knows what had happened a year or two afterwards.
Yeah, basically I think the moral is, if you're a politician, don't come to the snooker.
Yes, yeah, definitely, yeah. And especially if you're a Tory politician, because of course the Reds outnumber the Blues 15-1. The Crucible, it's a real privilege to cover the event, but any human being at the end of 15 or 16 days working non-stop under considerable pressure would be a little bit cranky. And what used to really annoy me, and I know it did Dave as well, when you got certain members of the WPBSA coming up from Bristol who'd not been there at all during the time, on day 15 walking in and shouting, saying, "Hello everyone, having a good time," you know, you felt like
yeah. I haven't had any sleep for 15 days. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, that tested our patience, but generally, what a privilege to be there.
Yeah, and why don't you tell the story, the emotional story, Phil, about seeing the young boy outside the Crucible you tell every year?
Well, you see, he goes on at me about this, but it was genuinely true. Basically, I went to the World Championship in 1972 at Selly Park, British Legion with my father. I went to one session there, and we went to the World Championship again in 73 and 74 in Manchester. So between the ages of 10 and 12, it was one of the highlights of my year. So of course, you then go to the Crucible, you become blasé after all of those days spent there covering the championship. And I'm going down from my hotel one morning, oh, you know, God, another hard day's work. And I saw a father and the son who was probably the same age as I was when I went to my first championship. And this kid just couldn't wait to get in there. And it made me feel really guilty. And of course I wrote this in a piece and he never let me forget it.
Yeah, it made you feel really guilty for about 10 minutes and then you started moaning on because there was a frame going on for half an hour. That's why.
Yeah, 35 minutes, get it right.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.